Today's episode is sponsored by our good friends at Famous Faces and Funnies. Hey, why don't you tap into the Florida market? Check out their live auctions on Facebook. Alrighty, welcome to another exciting episode of Codename YouTube Hero 2. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You. After a long hiatus, we are back, and we're starting off with our first graded unboxing. I know for the past several years, this has been a big hit with everybody because it's a chance for us as Gen Xers to look back at some of the iconic comic books that we grew up with. A lot of people have chimed in with their personal stories. I love all of that. Now, it also goes with my earlier announcement in the beginning of the year that this will be my last EGS unboxing episode. Now, I'm going to make a disclaimer and be upfront about this. EGS is still an excellent, viable option opposed to CGC. With that said, my reasons for not continuing the 6-year relationship with them is more of a personal reason, and I will add a little bit at the end of the video. But again, the point of this is the books, and I kind of had a dilemma of whether I should do this video or not because of the falling out with EGS on a personal level. But I felt that that would be an injustice to the viewers and to what this segment is all about. So without further ado, let's dive in with some amazing, iconic books from our past. Here we go. Alrighty, so the first book that we're going to showcase actually has taken on a completely different meaning from the actual book itself. Has that got you intrigued? Well, that's because I'm talking about Fantastic Four number 52, the first appearance of the Black Panther. Now, you have to remember that this book was kind of flying below the radar for so many years. And then Marvel's Civil War became, and the awesome portrayal by Chadwick Boseman, as well as how Marvel seamlessly integrated this character into this story arc. See, this is the difference between Marvel MCU and Star Wars, is that they were able to push a ethnic based character, which Black Panther was, and made it go seamlessly into the storyline. That's why it is so enduring to so many people on so many different levels, reaching all different backgrounds. That is how it's done, opposed to how Star Wars did it with Rey, showing that all of a sudden she becomes as strong as Luke Skywalker without doing anything just because she's Rey. Now, that's where the lesson comes from, how this, and this segued to a lot of ethnic-based characters being introduced into the mainstream public eye. You have Moon Knight, Echo. These are all interesting characters that people are discovering on the big screen or the small screen, but it's how it's done that everybody could relate to them. And I think the Black Panther, like I said, for so many years, this was one of the lowest attainable first appearances out of all the Avengers. Think about that. Even Hawkeye was more valuable than this first appearance prior to Civil War. Since then, this book has skyrocketed as people are, trying to add this to their collection. Whether, even people that collect African American art are picking up first issues of this to put in their collection. That is amazing for a comic book to carry that much impact and significance behind it. Now, of course, this is the facsimile edition. I love these facsimile editions. My regulars can attest to this. I've been preaching these, that everybody should go out and buy them. And I think Marvel and DC are both doing an excellent job reissuing these iconic issues to the general public so they could read it in its entirety. I know there's some people that like omnibus and what have you, but man, I'm an old school fan. I like holding a little comic book, sitting in my corner and reading it. And I get that with these prior to me sending them in for grading. But again, these facsimiles are excellent, especially for decor. I've mentioned a lot of times that we have people come in to work on the house and they'll see the Superman #1 or Amazing Spider-Man #1 I have in the living room and kind of do a double take like, did I just see that? And I'm like, calm down, it's just a facsimile. But these still do hold a somewhat of a monetary value. They're going around probably $60, $70, high graded ones. So yeah, they're definitely excellent options. Now, the second reason about this issue is the life of Chadwick Boseman. Here's a guy who had cancer during all of this, and he was fighting cancer quietly, like a private battle, but he would still go and visit sick kids that were fighting cancer in the hospital, instilling to them hope to keep fighting, to keep doing it. He eventually lost his battle, but the legacy that this man left and the life he lived is something that I wanted to commemorate by getting this book graded. So that's the reason why I got this book graded, is because to remind me of the man and how he lived, and also the character. So Fantastic Four number 52. All right, so the next book I'm actually introduce as a pair because I send them off to get graded together. But since this is a Gen X based channel, naturally I'm going to focus in on iconic Gen X franchises. Now, Transformers, the movie, issue #1. Now, this was a 3-issue series. I had talked about it when we did our unboxing of issue #2 during our PGX unboxing. Well, we got the EGS books back because I sent them issues 1 and 3. I sent #2 to PGX. And again, this is probably one of the most undervalued comic books for Transformers that's out there. If you think about it, this is several key first appearances that are in this 3-issue series arc. And you also got to remember that this came out before the movie did. I know because I own this book. Not this one, but the one I had in my childhood. I read the shit out of that. Like it was fluffied up from how many times I read the book. But I could close my eyes and remember every single panel in this book. The interesting is that there are several key moments to every Gen Xer that grew up. Star Wars, I Am Your Father, Luke Skywalker. #2 is probably the death of Optimus Prime, and that is in this issue. With the Transformers Energon universe going on currently, and there's a whole bunch of ideas of a Transformers G.I. Joe movie, now is the time to pick up Transformers, the movie comic adaptation. So here we have issue #1, and you can see how the yellows of Unicron is seamlessly blended in. You have several first appearances, cover appearances as well, right here with Ultra Magnus, RC, Rodimus, or Hot Rod at the time. So again, don't sleep on this. I think this book, low buy-in, but high potential, and it's fun. That's the most important thing, is the fun. To have this simple 3-issue arc collected and in your collection is something every Gen Xer should accomplish. So we have issue #1, and here is issue #3, Unicron. Now this scene actually plays out in the movie. That's what's interesting, is that Galvatron has the Matrix on his neck, and he refuses to listen to Unicron saying, "Now I'm your boss." And he's like, "Oh yeah? Hold my beer." He transforms into this robot and crushes Cybertron as punishment to Galvatron for disobeying him. So it's kind of cool to see something that was played out in the movie on the cover of this comic book series. Also take note that when you read this comic series, there was I think Autobots Blitz City or something like that. There was a series that came out before the movie. It was kind of like a precursor to the movie, and it was only a Japanese release. So now the English dub has occurred. there are a couple panels that reference to that. So when you're reading the comic book, you're like, this wasn't in the movie. Well, it was in that, I guess, short film. I think it was like an hour long or something like that. But again, that was a Japanese exclusive. Now we got it in or dubbed in English. But check that out on YouTube. You definitely should, because it really, as Americans, we miss that. So we went into Transformers like, who the hell are all these people? But that animated show kind of introduced everything, and these comic books actually make references to that. So that's what's kind of cool about this. So just to show you, this was the PGX one that we got graded. This was part of the same thing, so I'm kind of shocked. This got an 8, and this got a 6, and this one got a 7. The funny thing is that when you look at the grader's notes, they're both verbatim. So they're both like verbatim carbon copies of each other. So go figure. All right, so the next book is actually sent from one of our good friends of the channel, Jamie Tinsdale. Now, a lot of my regulars know from covering G.I. Joe, Jamie has done some iconic covers for G.I. Joe. So during the course of all these years since 2014, I've gotten to know a lot of the artists that work, like Nito Diaz, John Royal. Jamie is one of them. So I got to meet him once, and he was kind enough to gift me this signed copy of his latest at the time project called White Widow. This is issue number 1. This is the second print of this from a smaller company known as Absolute Comics, which is actually based in Florida, surprisingly. So they've been doing several indie books, and Jamie has this as he's the writer and the illustrator of this, kind of following Todd McFarlane's footsteps of doing Jim Lee as well. So I think before he was mostly known for cover art. So finally, this publisher gave him the opportunity to create his own character and to write his own story as well as illustrate it. And this actually is really interesting. I kind of like it because it's kind of like, initially your first impression is Spider-Woman, but how she goes about it is completely different. Like, she has these abilities kind of like Jessica Drew, but her parents are killed, and she has to find, all of a sudden these abilities start popping up in her, and she's kind of discovering that as she's going along. So far it's a pretty fun, interesting story arc. And of course, when you look at the cover and you look at the artwork, it is distinctively Jamie Tinsdale. And I'll put up the image right here of the iconic Baroness picture that I have in my retro room that he did. It's one of the covers on the G.I. Joe covers from IDW. I think it's issue 1/250. I'm not sure. But again, he is such a great illustrator, and I'm glad that he signed this so I could add it to my collection. So a signed Jamie Tinsdale of White Widow, issue number 1. All right, so the next book we're going to take a look at was made quite a bit of news and hubbub coming out of San Diego Comic-Con in 2022. For the first time in many, many years, we're going to see Spawn and Batman team up once again. Of course, McFarlane has the DC license for toys, and a lot of people like how he has revived the Superpowers line. A lot of people are big fans of that. I still haven't really got into it. I like the original Kenner Superpowers, but I never really got into the McFarlane ones. I should give them a try maybe down the road. But again, because of that collaboration and acquiring that license, kind of segued into him being able to once again utilize Batman into his own story arc with Spawn. So there was a boatload of covers, obviously, that came with this. I targeted the J. Scott Campbell because it's very rare for J. Scott Campbell to not feature like a superhero heroine or anything like that. So I think for him to focus in on male characters is really, really interesting. And this cover is absolutely breathtaking. I know I had problem with the glare on this, but I think this is probably a good picture of it. But the red, the black, the white, everything in this is absolutely beautiful. And I got to give credit to EGS with the custom label on it with bats on it with the red thing. I think that's nicely done. Back is pretty simple, just shows the DC Image collaboration for this. But yeah, this is a beautiful book. It just captures what Batman and Spawn is all about. So definitely love this cover. Batman Spawn, issue number 1. All right, so the next book, I'm sure a lot of my regulars are wondering, where the hell's the G.I. Joe books? Well, I'm glad you asked. Now, this is the second time I got this particular book graded, and I've improved a little bit, but I targeted this one because the last time I got it, it was like a second print. So I specifically wanted to target and find the newsstand version of this iconic G.I. Joe cover. And I'm talking about G.I. Joe number 63, the iconic Mike Zeck cover. I love this. I mean, this should be on a freaking t-shirt. But again, this is the newsstand variant. I think the other one I had was a second print. But the other thing, it's funny because neither the newsstand, the first print, or the second print, the one that's actually monetary significant is to have some fun. That was a 3-comic polybag pack that was sold in stores like Woolworth or Kmart. That's actually more difficult to find. And if you have them, definitely send it in. But of course, because I love newsstands, I definitely wanted to upgrade, so to speak, and get this book graded and back on the wall, because the old one I had was on display for quite a while. And then, I pass it on to another collector who's going to enjoy it very much. But again, beautiful, beautiful cover. Iconic, one of the iconic G.I. Joe covers. Mike Zeck, Mike Zeck, Mike Zeck. It's him and Herb Trimpe are the two guys that you allocate to your Gen X era artwork. Like, you could close your eyes and picture their work. I mean, with the Spider-Man, Secret Wars, I'm sorry. Secret Wars issue number 8. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. Secret Wars issue number 8 with the Spider-Man black outfit. That's a Mike Zeck cover. So again, I'm glad to have this back in the collection. And again, I'll just show you the custom label. It has a picture of Snake Eyes in it. So that's pretty cool. And the blue seamlessly goes with the cover art. So that's a good run. And on the back, hey, it's the iconic Peter Parker Mary Jane wedding invitation. So remember, there was 2 versions of this, because this was part of the cover. There was a newsstand edition, and then there was a direct edition, and one had the heroes and the one had the villains. So that's a little trivia question for you guys out there. That one had all the heroes with it, and that was the newsstand. And I think the direct one had all the villains in the wedding with this picture in the background of it. So I'm glad that this is the advertisement for this iconic issue. I wonder if the direct edition has this as well. I don't remember seeing it, but let me know in the comments. All right, let's keep this Gen X train going, and I love this stuff. We're going to take a look at another Gen X classic. Now, we already talked about Transformers the movie. Let's talk about another key character's first appearance, a character that a lot of fans are having like endearment for. And I'm talking about Omega Supreme. That's right. This is Transformers issue 19, the first appearance of Omega Supreme. Now, here's the thing. I know with G.I. Joe and Transformers, it's like there's a lot of first appearances. But again, you kind of got to look at it like not any, like we talked about this a lot. My regulars can attest. It's not the monetary aspect of it. It's the It's your feeling for your connection to your childhood with these toys and characters that we grew up with. Omega Supreme, was such a tortured soul. Like when you were a kid watching his story, like how the Constructicons double crossed him, everybody knows, can relate to like what it's like, even as a kid, of having a once good friend no longer be your friend. And so you have that connection with Omega Supreme, but how he, and also the whole thing would do not be overcome with your anger and revenge. Because remember in that key cartoon series, Optimus Prime was like, are you going to let this happen again? Are you going to let your anger and rage consume you? These are all important life lessons that a lot of us still carry to this day. So I think that that's why this book means a lot to me, because of Omega Supreme and the lessons Omega Supreme had. Now, of course, his lore has expanded since the iconic Sunbow series, most recent with the Siege series. He's a guardian, so it's kind of cool that his legacy has, expanded through the years. And I mean, his Siege action figure was like ridiculously big, and it was huge. It was really expensive too, but that thing was like, I mean, people are talking about Eternia playset and stuff. The Omega Supreme recent Siege toy it's no slouch whatsoever. It is definitely a engineering and from a toy standpoint, how they made that is absolutely crazy. I don't have the space for it, but still, it's something to appreciate. So, Transformers issue number 19, the first appearance of Omega Supreme. All right, so the second to last book we're going to take a look at is kind of proof why you should go to Free Comic Book Day. That's right. Sometimes there's a lot of first appearances and key books that are just there for free that people just pick up and disregard, have no idea about until way later. And I'm talking about this X-Men Eternals Avengers crossover called Judgment Day. This was a free comic book day. So this was essentially free. This is the first appearance of Blade's daughter, Bloodline, who at the time, I mean, now that they've kind of gone back to the drawing board, but there was rumors that she was going to be put into the Blade movie. I don't know if that's going to continue, but there's also that this character is being pushed more in the comic series. So this book has skyrocketed in importance and significance and value, where it was just a free book lying there. So it's funny, when I heard the news, I'm like, wait a second, I think I have that book. And sure enough, it was in my stack of my free comic book days, unprotected, just sitting in a bag. I was like, oh shit. So since then, I've learned to bag and board free comic book days and put them away just in case. But again, there were quite a bit. I think Invincible was a free comic book day. So there's a whole bunch of characters. I think Maximum Carnage, there was that. There's so many cool books that are for free, which is why you should go and support your local comic shop, because you get all of this benefits and you help your local small business. So I'm a big supporter of our local comic shop and our friend Famous Faces and Funnies. And this was just hanging out there. Hey, pick this book up. All right, cool. So I'm glad I picked this up. So this is definitely something you guys should make note of and take kids with you, because that's how this hobby grows, is introducing this to the kids. Get them away from these computers, get them away from these tablets, put them in a car, drive to your comic shop, introduce them what fun it is to go out, interact, and shop. All right, so my regulars know I usually start off with the home run and I try to end with another home run. And I think this book is a new modern classic in the sense that it is the conclusion of the IDW run of G.I. Joe. Now, I know a lot of people have asked why I haven't been doing the Skybound Image. I'm really far behind. I'm going to be honest with you. And it takes a lot of work to edit and cut things like what I do and present it in its format. It's a lot of work. And I think between Christmas, family coming, and kind of dealing with my elbow, and then work and stuff, I kind of been busy, let's be honest, so I haven't really done it yet. I may just pick up from the current issue and go forward and kind of like be like, all right, I missed this gap, so sue me, and we'll just continue going forward from the current issue. So just bear with me. We will start doing it because I know that a lot of people love them and I miss doing them, but just give me a little bit of time and then we'll start cranking those out. Anyway, so I picked G.I. Joe issue number 300. I don't know, out of all the artists, I don't really know Jamie Sullivan that well. I mean, I know him and I know he knows me, but we never really had a one-on-one dialogue. It's always like Facebook, and I don't really count that as really dialogue. But I love this cover because it's every single G.I. Joe that has appeared in the IDW run. It's a wraparound cover. Every G.I. Joe in Cobra. And he was selling prints of this on his page. So I don't know if he still has anymore, but again, it's a whole poster versus this wraparound. So if you're interested, go visit Jamie Sullivan. You could get this poster. But I just thought that was an amazing tribute to his work on G.I. Joe, the IDW run. Now, one of the things, and I mean this in the nicest way, one of the problems with the IDW run was there was that Jamie Sullivan and Atkins artwork. It just seemed like it was always the same two guys that majorly did all the artwork. So it kind of felt redundant. And then when Nito Diaz did a couple, it was like, wow. Now we're seeing in the Image Skybound run other artists, and it's kind of like, wow, it's breathing fresh air. It's no knock on them. It's just their art style. I think they did a great job. They do a good job. They should be heralded and commended for their work. It's just that it's like eating peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day of the week. You kind of like get sick of peanut butter and jelly sandwich by Friday. So I mean that in a good way. But then again, peanut butter and jelly is good, So I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. And I think a lot of you will agree that was one of the, I guess, issues with the IDW run, was that the same creative team carried it for most of the IDW run. And I think what Image is doing is kind of putting in guest writers or guest artists with the Dude, Cobra Commander, Transformers. So it's like freshening up a little bit after every few issues. And we'll see how that goes. But again, this is one of the modern classics. I don't think it's going to hold the same mantle as issue 155 that we have back there for the Marvel run, because you're talking about Marvel versus IDW. But I think that still, as a G.I. Joe fan, this is a must-have. And once again, which is ironic, and why I picked this book, because the first book we did for ECS is the G.I. Joe issue number 22, and he introduced the camo label. So I'm ending my run with ECS with the camo label as well. Again, that's beautiful. So a fitting end. All right, so with that said, I know a lot of you have been asking me why am I no longer going to be representing ECS, EGS, I'm sorry. ECS is a car company. EGS Grading. And again, it's personal. I kind of felt like I wasn't being appreciated or treated with respect. Um, I would always go and pick up my books at an Ace parking lot when I was never invited to um, the president's home, which was a block away. I felt that that was like, disrespectful and degrading that I had to go to some ghetto ass parking lot that was literally, I would drive 30 miles. This is halfway. I would drive 30 miles. He would drive 2 blocks. And I felt that was, you know, after all the stuff I did, I felt that that was kind of not right. And also, I got scolded one time that I did a PGX unboxing before an EGS. Now, you keep in mind that I am also a paying customer. I say sponsor, but really I get a discount. So I'm still paying like you guys are. And for me to pay and promote and then have someone scold me, and mind you, my mother was visiting during that week. So I was busy with that. And once I let the president know that, hey, my mother is here, he's like, okay, no apologies, no nothing. Like, oh, I'm sorry to, what am I, punk bitch? So I didn't like that at all. And the fact that even when I came to pick up these books, if I was given an apology, he just handed me the books. So right then and there, I knew that this was the best thing for me. But once again, I don't want to, because remember, I was a former auditor, so there's personal and there's professional thing. So the fact is that this is still a viable option for trying to get away from CGC and that corporation. If you're looking for a smaller company, if you're looking to be a little bit different with custom labels, then EGS is definitely the company for you. But going forward, we'll be working with PGX. And the owner there, Danny, he's been such a wonderful person to me, treating me with respect, treating me with kindness, compassion, gratitude. He has links to my videos for his PGX emails. So he sends out emails and he has links to our videos from our previous unboxing. So again, and he also posts on Instagram, tags us all the time. I think that that's a mutually good type of fun relationship that I like to carry forward. So once again, thanks for this month's unboxing. Stick around. Next month, we should have PGX's unboxing. Have a good one. Bye.